Hello, everybody. I am 13, and we're going to be playing one of my favorites tonight. So, this is Martyr Proc. So, a couple of things to get out of the way first and foremost. Thank you for everybody on Reddit. You're very supportive. We saw a huge boost in numbers. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason we're doing this. We're basically just trying to have some fun and play Magic, and it's really nice to see you guys come out and show your support. So, thank you so much for that. Really heartfelt. Second of all, this is going to be an extremely long deck tech. I love this deck. This is my go-to recommendation, so I'm going to try to cover a little bit more avenues. This is also an established deck. It's not just a random pile of crap I put together that I just wanted to see how it played, so that's also a little unique. But Martyr Proc is my favorite go-to deck recommendation, and we went a little bit heavier on the creatures, but we also got a ton of new toys. So I'm kind of going to go over a little bit of what to expect with the deck, what decisions we made, what a couple of the tutor targets are, just some general lines to consider while we go over this deck. So if you're familiar with it, go grab a beer, Mountain Dew, water, whatever your poison is. If you're on YouTube, skip ahead. I'll try to get the first land played. I want to every time, but I never seem to get around to it. But all right, so Martyr Proc. What this deck is white weenie, but with potential explosive starts and the ability to grind. So what we can do is, well, actually, this deck is also called White Jund. So if you're familiar with Jund with Termagloyfs and Lilianas, this is almost the budget version. So I would actually consider this deck completely roided out. This is pretty much what I'd take to register to a tournament right now. And it's $370. Almost all of that are the new Giver of Runes and the new Rangers. And you can build this on a budget. So again, let's just start going down the line. So what this deck is: Martyr of Sands. You can pay 1 and reveal X white cards from your hand to gain 3 times the number of cards that you reveal in life. So turn 1, you'd hopefully play Serra Ascendant, which is next to it, but turn 2, you'd play Martyr of Sands, immediately crack it, go above 30 life. Because of this, we have a strict deck building cost where everything needs to be white. That immediately means that we can't have Grafdigger's Cage, we can't have Relic, we have to have Rest in Peace. This means that we can't have Damping Sphere. Everything in our deck wants to be as white as possible to maximize the amount of life we gain by revealing cards to Martyr of Sands. Assuming this goes correctly, our most explosive start is the turn 1 Serra Ascendant. Serra Ascendant is a 6/6 flying lifelinker as long as you have 30 or more life. So if you can reveal 4 cards with Martyr of Sands, you're attacking for 6 flying lifelink on turn 2. Fatal Push was a huge beat to this deck, but this is still our most explosive start, and even well-prepared decks that interact with you have a really hard time dealing with this. I own this deck in paper. I've literally sat down against blue-white control, started with turn 1 Serra Ascendant, and had my opponent say, oh, because they can't figure out how to deal with the Serra Ascendant without the Path to Exile in hand. Then, the other part of this name is Proclamation of Rebirth. So ideally, we're not actually going to cast this card all that often. You can cast in a pinch, but you want to forecast it. But if you want to pay the 3 mana, you get 3 creatures with converted mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard into play. So this is a really good way to buy back your Martyr of Sands and just gain a ton of life. If your opponent does happen to Fatal Push your Serra Ascendant, you just get to bring it back and put more threats back on the battlefield. But during your upkeep, before your draw step, you can pay 6 and reveal it from your hand. It stays in your hand even after you reveal it, but you can bring back a single creature with converted mana cost 1 or less. So if you're playing against burn, you can just keep buying back a Martyr of Sands every turn. If your opponent has removal every turn, you can keep buying back Serra Ascendant. This is just attrition that goes on turn after turn after turn, and hopefully you're just going to have a lot of mana for it. Then we're going to try to fill our deck with white cards and the ability to buy things back. So Squawks. Squawks, when it enters, you get to go reveal... you get to search your deck for 3 Squawks, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So this is going to get you 3 cards for Serra Ascendant, so you can gain 9 life. But on top of that, we can block with a Squadron Hawk. It'll go to the graveyard. We can use Mistveil Plains to put it on the bottom of our deck, cast one of the Squadron Hawks that revealed, and go get the one that we just put on the bottom of our deck for a continuous Squadron Hawk every turn to chump block with. So we can get to the point where we're buying back a creature that's a threat. We can end up rerunning out a Squadron Hawk, and if we happen to have a Mary online, we can buy back anything in our deck. So this deck can go long, it can grind hard, but it does have smaller creatures, which is why we need something bombing like the Serra Ascendant. Then, to help facilitate this, we end up getting Ranger of Eos and the new Ranger Captain of Eos. Basically what these guys do are they allow us to tutor for a creature with converted mana cost 1 or less. Do you see a theme here? We basically just get to buy back anything that's cheap, but we want those cheap effects to be powerful and something that we can get multiple activations out of. So Ranger Captain is the new card from Modern Horizons. This is going to be one of the more expensive cards in the deck. You do not need to run it to make a viable deck. But it's 3 mana for a 3/3, which is a solid body. It tutors you up a new creature, and then you can sacrifice it to make sure your opponents can't cast non-creature spells. So if you're following along at home, we can actually use a Maria to buy this back and make it so that our opponent can't cast non-creature spells on their turn continuously. So again, we have some inevitability in this deck. Like, there's a lot of strength here. But Ranger Captain can go get you a Serra Ascendant, a Martyr of Sands, basically anything you want to go get. Ranger of Eos is 4 mana, but you get to go get 2 of them at the cost of having a 3/2 instead of a 3/3. Still very powerful. Again, with the Maria, we bring this back, we go get 2 creatures, and we just get so much card advantage. Those cards go to hand, we can reveal them to Martyr. There's a lot of synergy here, which gives this deck a lot of play, which is why I like the longevity of it, and why I recommend it is because it's, like, every game's a little bit different. You get to go toolbox for what you need, as well as still have fun and play it out. Plus, burn is just a buy. Like, it's so hard to lose to burn with this deck. It happens, but it's hard. But we also get the new card, Giver of Runes. Basically a ripoff of Mom if you're familiar with Legacy, but it can give our creature protection. Essentially can protect our Serra Ascendants. It can just give us a continuous blocker. It makes it harder for them to kill Squawk, so we can keep buying it back. Just really good value card. Then we have a couple of our tutor cards here. So let me actually make sure I'm on the right thing here. It's a little off. So things we can tutor for, Kami of False Hope. So this card, I actually think I didn't even have it in my last video, but you can sacrifice Kami to fog combat damage. So if you have Proclamation of Rebirth or Maria online, you can just completely fog all combat damage. So this is a really good card to tutor for, just a single copy. You can keep buying it back. Like, everything that we can do here is just recursive and getting the value over and over again. Then if we are playing a more grindy matchup, Thraben Inspector is just a 1 mana 1/2, and you can dump more mana to draw a card. I've cast Ranger a ton of times, just gone and got 2 Thraben Inspectors, tried to draw into another Ranger. This deck is all about making little attrition here and there, and Thraben Inspector is a great way to do that. Then last but not least, this is probably the card that I think most people won't want to pay for, but I think is going to be the one I recommend the most of all the expensive cards, and that's a Walking Ballista. So this card, CMC, is technically 0 despite being XX. And what that means is we can go tutor for it with any of the Rangers. We can... Buying this back actually doesn't do a whole lot, but this is removal that you can tutor with 7 of the creatures in your deck. Actually, let me double check that math really quick. 3 Rangers. Okay, so I made it 6. Either way, 6 cards will tutor up this Walking Ballista, and then we can actually use the Misspell Plains to put it back into our deck after it dies, so we can draw it again and recast it for a cheap effect. But Walking Ballista is very powerful. I'm sure more than once I'm going to go tutor it up, kill a Dark Confidant or something relevant, and just be so happy I have a single copy in the deck. It's not like we need multiples. It's not white, so it doesn't work very well with Martyr of Sands, but this is a single tutor target is actually going to save you in a lot of matchups. Then we also have Dryad Militant as a tutorable hate piece. This is really good against Storm. It's kind of okay versus Arclight Phoenix, but it's just a 1 mana 2/1, which is a solid body, and it makes it so that instants and sorceries don't get put into the graveyard. Really good versus Lingering Souls. This is a really dependent card. It's one I like to include. It is white. If you're not familiar with the hybrids, it means that it's both green and white. But it's just a good card to tutor up. It's a relevant body. If it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything. But more often than not, it's a 2/1 on turn 1, which is serviceable. Then I personally prefer the creature build of this more, which is why I run Thalias in my list. Thalia is just very powerful. When I first started playing Magic, I didn't understand the effect of taxing non-creature spells, but Thalia is just fantastic. And then we have the stock removal in white, which is Path to Exile. Just really, really good card. It goes into so many different decks. Part of the reason I recommend buying into Martyr Proc is because Path to Exile, Rest in Peace, a lot of these cards transition into a lot of different directions. You can go into Control, into Death and Taxes. Like, buying these white cards are powerful, and you can use them many places. And if you end up not liking Martyr Proc, I have it set up as a deck that I can loan to people or just play on an off night. But if I don't want it anymore, somebody wants my Thalias. Humans wants it. Basically, any deck with white on the sideboard that's losing to Storm wants it. Just such a good card, and it holds its value. Then last but not least, these cards are not in the deck, but they are pretty stock to the archetype. So Sun Titan 6 mana that lets you re-buy back something pretty cheap, works really well with the new Ranger. This card I think is actually $2 in paper. It's not that bad, but it's a really big resilient threat. A lot of times when Sun Titan hits the field, your opponent scoops just because you're getting so many more cards and it's such a powerful effect. A 6/6 Vigilance, really hard to deal with. Gideon Jura is just a really powerful planeswalker. He's going to buy you a lot of life by making your opponents attack him. You can remove a problem creature after it attacks. Gideon Ally of Zendikar, I think, has dropped in value. He was pretty expensive in his heyday in Standard, but token every turn, you can make all of your little creatures bigger, becomes a 5/5. Like, the point I'm trying to get across with this page is that just about any card in white that has a powerful effect is playable in this deck. You have something on the low end that buys you time, you have a lot of ability to grind, and then the finisher is technically your own choice. I'm kind of just going with the stock cards here. I kind of want to see how it plays out with our new Modern Horizons cards, but that's essentially what we're looking at. And this is Martyr Proc. So I know that was a long 12 minutes, but I'm a huge fan of this deck. I recommend people to it. I hope if you're here, you're actually considering to pick this up. It is by far one of my favorite decks to play. All right, so we did get our first match, and this is kind of a slow start for this deck, actually. So I can run out the Serra Ascendant. Thraben Inspector will allow me to draw a card on turn 2. Misfill Plains is coming in tapped, but lets me refill. I'm going to get run over by a fast combo start, but I'm on the play, and if I top deck a Serra Ascendant, a Martyr of Sands, the Serra Ascendant's going to be brutal. I can try to mulligan for a hand that has both a Serra Ascendant and a Martyr of Sands. But this hand is worth a long game, and I think it's definitely fun to keep for a blind matchup. Oh, I think that this is the prison guy that was played super slow. Alright, Ranger Captain is fine. So let's go ahead and attack, see if Bolt's pointed at the Serra Ascendant. Looks like it is not. Alright. So it's Mono Red Phoenix. I know I just played this guy. Like Monday night, I just played this guy. Ramunap Runes means that it's either Burn or Mono Red Phoenix. Oh, this is a new Chandra. This must be Elementals. Okay. And that's a Thalia. That is a gorgeous Thalia. If they're trying to ritual, then Thalia's just going to shut this down. Another reason I just love running her. She is a little bit more on the expensive side, but when she's good, she is so good. Do you have Gut Shot? Okay, I don't know why opponent's pausing here. There we go. Little Chandra goes down a bit, and just in case there's a Blood Moon, I'm actually going to leave up white. I have nothing to cast with it, but it's a pretty clean representation of, well, I guess with Thalia out, it's not a path. Next turn gets to be Ranger, though. Ranger's going to go get me probably a Martyr and, honestly, just any white card. That's a Kami. Well, that's slightly an awkward draw. Alright, well, it's cleaner to attack first. So let's end everything at Chandra, just get her off the table. The way opponent's been playing, they either have absolutely nothing, or they have 4 mana Chandra, or potentially just another 3 mana Chandra. This is looking more like Big Red. Pyroclasm's going to hurt, but at least Ranger will restock my hand. So, this is the power of the deck. I don't think opponent's doing anything out of the graveyard at this point in time. Giver of Runes can be really powerful here. Martyr of Sands is going to make Sarah Ascendant a 6/6. Assuming I actually can make Sarah Ascendant a 6/6, I think that's going to be a Martyr of Sands and another Sarah Ascendant. Then if I draw a Squadron Hawk, I am so happy. This is probably going to be a 4-mana Chandra. Or they've just got the 6-mana one stuck in hand. Alright. Really don't know what opponent's going for here, but let's just go ahead and reveal my hand. Gain 35 life, hit for 6. Opponent's down to 7. I'm likely going to be cracking the clue here, looking for a land. Opponent would need a Wrath of God to clear the board, and I kind of want to don't run out my second Sarah Ascendant in case there's a Blasphemous Act or something really awkward in my future. Okay. So this could be Big Red, Elemental Tribal, or some kind of attrition Snapcastery mono red deck. Either way, Uriok Champion, Pro Red. We didn't see any creatures, so I'm probably trimming a Path to Exile and the Winds of Abandon. Definitely don't need the global one. I could also see this being a weird variant of Fusundity. Like, it's not very likely, but just trying to think of anything that could go wide enough I'd actually care about. Eidolon of Rhetoric would shut down their ritual plan. Really don't think that's important. Disenchant's probably important. So I could get rid of a Blood Moon, although since I'm mono white, they're likely taking that out. I could get rid of a Chalice. I am super concerned about Chalice, which, yeah, I'm expecting Chalice. Let's bring in the Invoke the Divine. It's basically Disenchant where you gain 4 life, which is relevant in a life gain deck. And then the 2 Disenchants. Thalia seemed pretty good. Banishing Light hits the Planeswalkers. I actually don't think I care about the Proclamation of Rebirth. They're good, but if we're going that late, they're going to have an active... They're going to have Ensnaring Bridge too. Yeah, I just need all of that. Depending on how long the game goes, this Proclamation could be pretty good. I don't really want to play thinking opponent's going to get the 4-mana Chandra Torch of Defiance's emblem, so... maybe just trim the Thraben Inspector. Given the fact that Chandra actually casts stuff from the graveyard, I am going to leave the Dryad Militant in. But... oh, that last turn, opponent tapped 2 mana and then conceded. They realized that Thalia wasn't getting enough the mana. They were trying to cast 6 mana Chandra. Alright, well, we do move up a match. I am trying to get better at updating my record. There's a slot for it, so I should use it. This is a slow land. It actually looks okay other than the fact that we have a slow plains, but definitely can't keep that. We have our pro red creature versus the mono red. We have a way to get rid of a Chalice if they have it, and we get to go tutor something that's relevant if we figure out what opponent's doing. Ghost Quarter's not going to do a whole lot here. We have a single one in the deck for the Crucible of Worlds, but versus the mono red deck, it's probably the same logic as Blood Moon. Chalice on 1. Dang, we're good. Well, Thraben Inspector's going to get countered by Chalice, so it's not coming out yet. Gemstone Caverns is a little sad if it doesn't start in your opening hand. Ooh, that's an Emeria. Well, that enters tapped. We're just going to go pro red and start gaining life whenever a creature enters. I'm happy with that. This will be getting in unblocked pretty much every time that it attacks. I can't think of anything except for maybe a Genesis Chamber that could potentially be in their deck that I care about. So 3 mana here, Ranger Captain, tutor up, Walking Ballista? Actually, probably Sarah Ascendant. We're going to be gaining life pretty fast here, and then if they ritual, I could sack the Ranger. Was the whole logic behind that. Okay, so Dryad Militant can get rid of the buyback. Giver would actually be pretty good here. But I think Sarah Ascendant, tried and true. Because next turn we're going to be running Invoke the Divine, gaining 4 more life. Casting the Sarah Ascendant will be at 25. Yeah, we have some time. Okay, well, I don't want this to get exiled, so we're just going to put it in the yard. And then Pro Red works. Oh, look at that. We're so good at this game. Do we actually want to do that first? That can go get a Martyr. No, that means we don't want to do that first. So let's go ahead and blow this guy up. Run out the Sarah Ascendant. Gain some more life. This looks like a really awkward big red. I did want to try big red with the new Chandra in it, but so far I've not been overly impressed. So they're going to have to shoot Sarah Ascendant here. Yep. Then my champion gets to kill it. I get a Ranger, go grab. Or, you know, sometimes your decks are just nice to you. I feel like that hasn't happened to me a lot lately, but it's definitely happened right meow. Definitely right meow. Okay, so Martyr could gain enough. Have 2 mana up. Yeah, we're just going to Ranger. This is going to be a Sarah Ascendant and a Sarah Ascendant. The next turn they're going to be 6/6s. Okay, this just feels mean. They do have the Ensnaring Bridge. Well, we have 2 disenchants for that. But there's 3 cards in hand. All of this is getting in fine. Martyr of Sands attacking for 1 actually might be relevant, but I'm just going to gain the life, make these Sarah Ascendants huge. I want to look for the disenchant, so I'm 100% going to be cracking the clue, but in the meantime, I just have a really respectable board state. How far off is Ameria? 7 or more planes, so we get to crack this. We'll be at 5. We need to top deck 2 more planes. All right. You do what works for you, opponent. We are Value Town. But Big Red confirmed. Honestly, I'm not too concerned. I actually think we beat this emblem long term. Thanks to Misspell planes, if they took their Blood Moons out, we're actually going to not be able to be milled. And Walking Ballista means that we get to shoot over them. I guess I should have attacked first. This way, if they had something they could have used on one of my attacking creatures. Alright, well, from what I've seen so far, I think I just want the Thraben Inspector to draw into Disenchant. We're so close to just killing the opponent. Alternatively, I could go for Dryad Militant that makes the 3 mana Chandra significantly worse and can attack in under the bridge. I think I just talked myself into this. Because, like, 3 mana Chandra recast Anger of the Gods would actually be really mean to our board state. And by really mean, I mean kill 2 of our creatures. They'll still be able to do it, but Dryad Militant makes every new card significantly worse. I could also run out Giver of Runes to try to protect something I care about, but I don't think there's anything I care about. Like, Ranger Captain's cute, but Ameri is pretty close to bringing it back every turn, then I'll just lock him out and I'll be able to attack in through the bridge. And this is why I love this deck. Like, I'm sitting here trying to think ahead, and like, Ameri is going to make it so that they can't cast spells during their turn. So Planeswalkers are just going to rot in their hand, and I'll be able to attack in through the Ensnaring Bridge. Maybe with that line, I was supposed to take the Thraben Inspector, try to draw into my 2 other planes, just so I could start that combo going. That's a Karn. Funny enough, Ameri actually works through that. And I can still kill the card. This is putting another card in their hand. Can I just kill them too? Nope, can't kill them yet. So what would they even have? Like O-Stone? I guess Oblivion Stone could get me through this. Or get them through this. Verbiage and terminology. Well, apparently opponent was just waiting really bad for this and didn't know what they wanted. Getting Welding Jar. Alright, that's cute. Still have the plan of just making it so that they can't cast anything. Alright, opponent, you're tapped out. I'm tapped out. Can I please take my turn now? That'd be awfully kind of you. Just planning for my next turn because opponent's making me actually plan for it. I'm going to attack everything at Karn. It is possible that they have a gut shot, and gut shot would make it so that Karn survives with 1. That's not a bad backup plan. Oh, I guess I can't shoot with Karn out. Karn the Great Creator. Do I actually want a Giver of Runes? Probably not. Let's just run out the Walking Ballista and let opponent know that if they have a Planeswalker, it's going to die. Actually, can I kill them now? So I sack Ranger Captain. I'm swinging in for 7. Shoot for 3. I can bump this up. Yeah, so I'm actually going to sack Ranger Captain here and try to go for lethal. If they draw land, it goes a little bit south. Or I I guess if they have an instant. Nope. All right. Well, pretty easy 2-0 to start off. We are also, I'm going to air quote budget here. Those decks prey on the more competitive, very streamlined decks. Like by going with our lower curve creature denser strategy, we are a little bit more like a competitive deck, but that just makes it so that Chalice is significantly better. If you look at that 1-drop column, we have a lot of them, which is why I had 3 ways to deal with it in the sideboard. And then we're all basic lands. So because we're, again, quoting budget, we are a single color, and it means that Blood Moon isn't nearly as effective. They're not going to steal those wins. So that was a pretty decent matchup for us, but it's definitely not out of the realm of winnable. All right, I would love to play first. This is a turn 1 Sarah Ascendant. If opponent has no interaction, I draw a land to turn 2, attacking for 6. This is just too good. How many lands do I actually have? 13, 17, 19, 21. I'm a little light on lands, but I'm still riding the upside. I'm 20 of 53. Sorry, opponent. Didn't mean to keep the upkeep stop. Oh, it's burn. That's sad. So I cannot run out the Martyr of Sands here. If I do, it means that they can hold up Skullcrack to negate the life gain. Oh, it's Zoo. No, it's Dragons? Goblins? It's Goblins. Alright, well if I don't hit land drops and we lose to Goblins, it's going to be something. Is that Teferi? Echo Mage. I don't think I know what that does. Let's level up that copies. That's a fun card. Alright, so opponent has 5 cards in hand. I actually need to figure this out for a second. So Goblin Instigator's not in hand. Skirk Prospector's not in hand. The Dragon's not in hand. Wordling Outburst isn't in hand. So they have a Mog War Marshal, and that's it. They would have ran it out, which means they're holding up interaction, so I have to pass. If this were paper, I'd be like, I'm so sorry, opponent. Can you just tell me what you put in hand? I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at Goblins. Oh, so it is Fecundity. Alright, this is going to be bad. For those not familiar with this combo, it is a little bit more fringe. This was actually on I might play next week list. Fecundity means whenever a creature dies, its controller may draw a card. They end up having goblins that sack themselves, but more importantly, they get Skirk Prospector. They can sack a goblin to add red. So they'll get red, draw a card, and then they can just kind of iterate over their stuff. This is going to give them 3 goblins, so they end up netting a mana as well as drawing 3 cards. And then they draw their entire deck. They cast Empty the Warrens, and they sack all the goblins and do it again. So I'm going to Thalia here and protect Thalia. Just makes it a little harder for them to combo off. Yep, there's a Mog War Marshal. They won't pay echo costs when it dies. Okay, so they just get to go off. We might be dead here. Hard combo is one of the harder matchups for this deck. Another reason I really like Thalia. We'll see how hard they can actually go off and see what their win condition is. Most of the time it's Empty the Warrens, and actually I know they usually get like a ton of goblins, like 60 plus goblins. I don't know if that's their actual win condition though. Infernal Plunge gets a lot of mana, draws them a card. to 9 cards in hand. I think this deck's also called Dirty Kitty. So Sharpshooter is pings for 1 anywhere it wants to. Empty the Warrens is how they get all their goblins to generate everything. Then they have a grape shot at the end. Well, at the moment, they can't pay for Empty the Warren, so I think we're still making them go for it. If they lose their entire storm count here, then we're probably okay. Yeah, it looks like they might have just stumbled. Top decking a land. Yeah, they only got to Grape Shot 10. This list has a single Grape Shot in it. Don't know what opponent's running, though. Okay, 2 at the Giver, 1 at Thalia. Giver can't protect itself, so we'll give Thalia Pro red. Hey, look at that. We're so good at this game. So we get a Ranger, go get a Walking Ballista, sack it so that they can't cast on creatures, and then Walking Ballista shoot down the Prospector, and that should shut off their engine. Then follow it up with another Ranger the following turn. I love this deck. So that's going to be a Walking Ballista. Yeah, Walking Ballista is best here. Then let them actually draw cards if they want to, but you don't get to do anything fun this turn, opponent. Ouch. So missing the land drop there is pretty painful. Pathing the Skirk Prospector is not going to do anything. I can Ranger Captain for something else, sack, try to find a land. That's not really that good. I can Martyr and gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can gain 21, going up to 33. Opponent shouldn't be able to kill me unless they go for Goblins that have multiple turns to attack. I think Ranger Captain is just going to be the next best line again, although I'll be discarding to hand size. Martyr's also going to draw me a card. I'm going to be greedy and try to go for a land drop here. Ah, it's a tap land. A really bad tap land. All right, well, we're going to gain a lot of life. Do I want to attack? Yeah, probably. Turn off auto yields. Oh, that hurts. That's really painful. That was a misplay. I have to discard to hand size. Path to Exile actually doesn't do much here, so we'll just get rid of that. Commune with the Gods. Get rid of Skirk Prospector. Faithless Looting. Postmortem Lunge. The Crag. And the War Marshal? I need to read this. You may play a creature or enchantment card. So they got rid of the War Marshal. Alright. Love me some basic land action. Alright, let's run this back. X is currently 5. Love to draw. Left to draw. And that's a Saracen, and dang, I'm good at this game. So, first and foremost, let's walkie B. See if you have another Skirk Prospector. Put that on. Whatever, always yield. Yes. Yes. Now I can Thalia, I can just Sarah Ascendant. It's most correct to move to my second main phase since they're floating the red mana. If they have a lightning bolt, they would have been able to use it. Now I can Thalia. They're going to be drawing 2 cards. I can just Sarah Ascendant, have a good attacker. I think I'm going to Sarah Ascendant and then hold up Path to Exile. And this Winds of Abandon basically covers me versus a Empty the Warren. So let's get rid of Squawks. I really don't care about Squawks. And a land. Commune with the Gods. Opponent's taking the Skirk Prospector. Yep. Skirk Prospector. They get a sack and draw 2 cards, but this is just my most efficient use of mana. Apparently they just F6'd. Apparently the white deck can't have Path to Exile. Alright. Yep, there we go. That's game 1. So Disenchant 100% coming in. Uriok Champion 100% coming in. Invoke the Divine coming in. Cleansing Nova. This was actually a horrible ad to deal with Chalice of the Void, but I think I want it here. It can either kill and empty the Warrens, or it can destroy Fusundities. Eidolon of Rhetoric is another fantastic reason to be playing this deck. This is such targeted hate versus Storm decks. I really don't like Path here, because they can just sack anything that they want, although it does end a Skirk Prospector. I don't know, Dryad Militant's not great. Kami of False Hope can loop if that's what we want to go for, and they end up going for the Empty the Warrens. Let's actually take a look at this Dirty Kitty list. So they can Sharpshooter, and that would have come really close to killing us. They can just invest in a Pile Driver, but honestly, Thalia blocks it like a champ. Goblin Matron is definitely a thing. That's just a lot of mana. I don't see a sideboard. There we go. Grafdigger's Cage, Bedlam Reveler, Mog Fanatic, Rex Sage, Tin Street Hooligan. I've never seen that one. Destroy target artifact, makes sense. Blood Moon, Grudge, and Slash. So I just basically need to plan to play this like their Storm deck. I have many, many things to cut. Ranger's just slightly slow, and I'm bringing in multiple cards. Squadron Hawk isn't the best, but it's still one of our better attrition plans. Oblivion Ring and Banishing Light still answer the Fusundities. Draven Inspector profitably blocks Goblins. Wow, I can't believe I'm about to take out the Squawk package. I honestly don't think a turn 2 flying 6/6 lifelinker is good enough, and Squawks is just kind of mediocre at doing all of that. We're going to try to turn it into a control list, and it's probably just going to be like this. Logic just being that like neither of these are great in this matchup. This is expensive, and Squawks is just one of the packages in the deck that we can remove if we need a lot of things. I think we're going to board very well into hating this out, though. This is turn 1 Thraben Inspector, turn 2 Walking Ballista, kill the Prospector, and hopefully just win the game off of that. Slightly awkward. Opponent did mull to 6. And they capped. Okay, no Prospector on 1. Do I actually want a Martyr next turn? No, I don't. So I'd only gain 6 here. Yeah, not nearly good enough. Let's just start gaining some life and get something in that can't be blocked. This is such a good card. We're going to gain life every time they sack a creature. Oh, and look at that disenchant. That's gorgeous. Alright, so I can walk in Ballistic here. Opponent's getting up to 3 mana, and they still haven't done anything yet. So I don't really care about anything there. I'm just going to plan on cracking the clue, and if they Fusundity into a creature, I'll just disenchant it. Like, they must have had a baller hand. Let's do this correctly this time. I didn't crack the clue. I knew I clicked through that too fast. Alright, well that was a punt, but trying to rectify it here. Thraben Inspector is awesome on defense. Thanks, Bradwan. I feel the love. So if they put a Fusundity on the stack, I can nuke everything. Otherwise, I'll just hit the Skirk Prospector when it comes down. I guess that's a line I didn't look for. But that's fine. Still 2 for 1. That is another Martyr of Sands. I still think I'm on the plan of cracking the clue, although I think now I want a Martyr on the field. Kind of wish I still had Ranger VS in the deck. Ranger VS would just let me go tutor for 2 Serra Ascendants, and I'd basically just win on the spot. Opponent's looking for that green mana. Doesn't know I'm holding a disenchant. Well, they found the Fusundity, and they just pitched it. I guess they didn't have the green source. Do I actually need to do this now? I don't. And I'd really prefer not to show them the disenchant unless I had to. That's a reason not to do it yet. I had to do it before that. Alright, well this might be a concession at this point just because that was another punt. I could have been 3 life higher. But they see that I have a flying 6/6 life linker as well as the disenchant and more life gain coming. Opponent's dead in 2 turns. If they find their green mana, they can Fusundity, but they won't be able to storm off. Yep, there it is. So, my punt. But, I mean, we do move up to be 4-0. Should really be stating how powerful this deck is, especially for how budgeted it is. And we've had very interesting lines. Like, being able to toolbox tutor is... Okay, I'm actually curious. Sorry, opponent, but you're going to have to sit there while I do this. So, population size 60, numbers of successes in population 4, sample size 7, number of successes 4. So we had a 0.007% chance of getting all martyrs in our opening hand. And then 21, sample size 7, number of successes 0. That doesn't seem right. Okay, I punted something there. Feel free to correct me on that. But that doesn't seem likely. Oh, geez. Oh, geez, Rick, we just can't draw anything. Okay, well, this is a path into Squawks and basically Fixer Mulligan. And it looks like Storm... We drew a Squawks! I'm watching you, deck. I do not approve of what's going on here. Be a thing in the ice. Be a thing in the ice. Boom, baby! I have to do that now because I am planning on squawking here. I really don't want to draw anymore, and I need some cards in my hand. That's a Saracendant, which means that future Martyrs are good. And I can block Arclights for days. Ranger Captain's going to show some attack here and make it so that they can't flash back. Arclights. Opponent said twice in one league. Must have played this deck before. Alright, well, I have nothing else to do here, so you get to see one of the Squadron Hawks I tutored up like a boss. So I don't even know what I want to see here. I'm 100% expecting my opponent to go Manamorphose, Faithless Looting, Lightning Bolt, and kill me. That's just how this deck always plays out. I might be a little jaded. I'm not a huge fan of playing against this deck. Hey, look at that! We got an Aria! We don't have a good answer for that. Oh, yes we do! Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to Ranger. And I'm going to go grab my Friendly Neighborhood. Actually, what do I want to grab? Probably the Dryad Militant, just that Finale isn't as devastating. Or I can grab the Martyr, and that's going to turn my Saracendant on. I want the Martyr. Odds are I'm going to sack Martyr anyway. So then stop on my opponent's turn. Opponent can't cast spells. Untap, banishing like the Aria. Oh, we even hit a land drop. Look at that. We're so good at this game. Thank you for the 10 life, opponent. I would have been super sad if they spell pierce that. Super sad. Hey, look at that. Up to 40. Unfortunately, we are going to start getting punished pretty hard here. Martyr will let us regain some life, but it's not very good. Things likely flipping here, which means we're going to be taking another 5 damage and then the 7 for the hit. Although I guess they don't have another mana. They have to have a gut shot. Or I guess they could have surgical. If they do flip our stuff, though, we're going to gain more life off the Martyr. Do it! Alright. I do like how the opponent on Arclight Phoenix is complaining that they've had to play Martyr Proc twice in one league. Do you know how many times I've had to play this deck? Five. Go back up to 41, put out a 6/6 Flying Lifelinker, put out a chump blocker for the titty. And that Aria is going to start getting pretty bad. Pretty bad. Especially if they just cantrip for days. They have all the mana. Free Manamorphose. So one more spell and my Saracendant's back to being a 1/1. That's a sad Saracendant. Martyr Proc off the top should let me gain enough life back. Actually, they can cast multiple spells. I honestly don't think that this is... I'm pretty sure we're down. Yep. And they're paying life, which means that they have something for 3 mana. There's the finale of Promise, which means we're dead. Yeah, opponent, I honestly don't think you're allowed to complain about playing Martyr Proc twice. So, Uriok Champion can't get killed. I honestly don't think that's relevant. Path is fantastic. Disenchant if they're on the plan. Eidolon of Rhetoric is great. Invoke the Divines coming in. So this is one of these times where you have to be disciplined and say no rest in peace. We have 3 of them in here, but it's primarily for Dredge at this point. It's really hard for us to keep up the Dredge attrition war just because it can slow down and they get multiple triggers and their creeping chills are just super bad for us. This is slow for Arclight Phoenix. We can technically beat a thing in the ice, but that doesn't mean I want to bring these in. I want to fight the Arya battle. The opponent also probably thinks I'm bringing in Rip, but yeah, we're just going to give this a shot. It's just so hard when Arya does 50 points of damage to you in a single turn. Like, there's not much fighting that, especially on a Mold of 5. No colored sources means we need to ship this back. We have a Path for the first Titty. We have a Banishing Light for the first Arya. The proc is bad, so I'm going to ship it back, but this is keepable. Ranger's pretty good. It'll go get us the right cards. We are currently down a game versus Arclight Phoenix. But I do think that's pretty par for the course. Arclight Phoenix punishes decks that aren't like super linear strategies, especially if they're creature based, and we did lean this build a little bit heavier towards creature base. Ranger Captain's coming down just to try to prevent the actual flood out next turn of spells. If they start casting something like a Faithless Looting, I can shut off their game plan. And I think we've got to go for a faster kill here. A faster kill would mean a Sarah Sendin and then get a Martyr of Sands off the other Ranger. Or we could go for a Giver of Runes, try to protect our combo. I think it's Sarah Sendin. We need to set up to win, and right now we're not set up to win. So they're going to discard 2 Phoenixes, put a spell on the stack, and then try to gut shot me. Then they're going to opt. This is such a fun deck to play against. Which means I'm taking 6, so Sarah Sendin's not going to be online, and we probably just need to move on with our lives again. Like, I absolutely hate this deck. What are lines here? So I can Banishing Light one of the Arclight Phoenixes. They just untap an Arya and kill me. I can Sarah Ascendant. Okay, so my line right now is I Banishing Light one of these. Opponent's on blanks. I top deck a Martyr of Sands, get Sarah Ascendant to be a 6/6. Opponent has no burn to shoot at my face. They're going to bolt it. Okay, yeah, they're hand stacked. They intend on bringing this back next turn, so I'm moving on. I think that that's pretty miserable. But what are you going to do? You do take some beats. Thalia would have been great at any point in that game. Eidolon would have been fantastic. I guess we could have probably mulliganed harder towards Hate because we did have a couple of pieces for it. This is a turn 1 Kami, turn 2 Thalia into Rangers if I top deck and I'm on the draw. It's not our most explosive start, but Thalia will win a decent number of games. Ponza might be slightly hard if I'm hoping the top deck lands. If they don't immediately have a Stone Rain, or they just try to Blood Moon here, that means that Thalia will come out and do some work. Yep, they always have it. Well, I'm going to start beating you down with Kami. How do you feel about that? Okay, honestly doesn't affect me. My lands are colorless or white. Now what you got, opponent? So they're at 5 mana, which means they're probably squatting on an Inferno Titan. Okay. On the plus side, I've got opponent to 14. What can we discard that tells them the least about what we're doing? Screw it. You guys see the Ranger. We're going to know what we're doing, but we're not getting to 4 mana anytime soon, and if we do, we're not multicasting, so... That's a Chandra. Alright, then a Skooz is coming. They didn't cast the Skooz? Oh, yeah, they couldn't tap for mana after they exile the top. Plains. Alright, we tried. Don't really care about disenchant. We are colorless. I'm sure opponent had to have figured that out by now. Pro red can block Inferno Titan for days. Will still take the hits for 3. Disenchant is just so not worth it. Path is likely pointed out one of our own guys. Land destruction, the slower things come out. Proclamation is actually supposed to be a 6 mana spell, but I can see preventing... Actually, yeah, let's just take the other one out for a Ranger. Rangers are good. Hopefully we get to see some lands. 21 is slightly on the light side, but... Alright. This is 3 lands and a couple of 1-drops. Dryad Milton is showing the other side where in a lot of matchups it's just dead. I guess that could have been a card that I trimmed, but it is a 2-1. That's a clock. Also, the reason it's coming down, if opponent has a bolt pointed at anything this turn, I'd rather it hit Dryad Militant than the Giver of Runes. Alright, opponent starting strong. We do have a Ghost Quarter in our list. Ranger Captain here, assuming that we don't get Stone Rained, Ranger Captain here is likely going to go for a Thraben Inspector, just so that we can try to redraw a land. That's a thing. I'd rather show the colorless land at this point. Make opponent think that Blood Moon's actually pretty decent for them at the given moment. It actually might have been correct to sack the Ranger there. Bam! And that is called baiting. Ranger, go get Martyr, Thraben Inspector, and Sarascendant, crack to draw. I actually like Sarascendant. The next turn can be go tutor up Martyr. This gives me another draw into something that's not a... something that is a land. And then I'm going to shut opponent off from casting non-creatures here. They've shown that they don't really have anything great at the moment. I'd really rather they not stone rain me, so that I can multi-spell if I find a land. Opponent won't have non-creatures, so I may as well just sack this. Oh, like that. We even found a Martyr. So play the Martyr, gain 9 actually is not very productive. I'm going to have to Ranger. Okay, I know what I need to do. First things first, I'm going to attack in with both of these. If they kill my Serra Ascendant, it's changing my line to go get another Serra Ascendant. I don't want them having 5 mana next turn, so I would have happily made that trade. Now Martyr of Sands can gain me 9 life. So that the Serra Ascendant's going to be a threat that they can't just kill with a bolt. I guess they do have bolt up now. That was a mistake. For some reason, I thought that the Ranger Captain's effect was still in effect on my turn. Now opponent can actually bolt me, make Serra Ascendant a 1/1 in anger. That's something I actually care about. This is exile, not revealed. Probably not. If they just stone raid me, I can pop the clue, drop a cami. If they don't, I can Ranger, go get a walking ballista, shoot down the Arbor Elf. Land drop Inferno Titan is quite bad. Alright, well, we put up a fight there. Unfortunately, opponent just had the nut draw in game 1, and we kept a hand that actually wanted to draw lands. On the draw, does that change anything? Actually, do I just want to hardcast this? I can get back 3 creatures, one of which would be a Martyr Sands, a Serra Ascendant, and a Giver. Yeah, I'm going to hardcast that. They've been bolting my early creatures, which isn't necessarily correct for their deck, but I think it's something I want to do. And I think that means I ran 61 cards last game. That's embarrassing. Do I want to trim the Squadron Hawk package? Just bring in the other Ranger? If they don't just completely obliterate our lands to start, I think that this is actually correct. Squadron Hawk can make 6/6 flying lifelinkers, and their deck can't really handle it, but if I'm blocking Inferno Titans, I'm not winning. They're still going to be shooting me for 3 every turn. And Elspeth is just too expensive. Squawks actually might be better on the play than on the draw, so I probably did that super backwards. Oh my gosh, I'm about to keep a 1-lander versus Ponza. So my sequencing here is looking like it's going to be turn 1 Serra Ascended, turn 2 Martyr, Sands Crack It, swing in for 6 flying lifelink, win the game. Alternatively, I ship it back, I might get a weaker hand, I'll have more lands. If they're on Stone Rain, I'm not going to survive. Opponent did mull to 6. I think I'm going to gamble this. If they do Stone Rain me and I don't draw a land, that's probably game losing, but we're here to have fun, and having fun is a 6/6 flying lifelinker. If I do top deck a land after a Stone Rain, then hey, they're slow! Yay, they're slow! Land? That's not a land. You let me down, deck. But that start also means that they don't have a bolt. That is most unfortunate. All right, well, they have to answer 2 of the 3 permanents. Which could be a Blood Braid into a Stone Rain. No, that doesn't answer it. I get rid of the land, but the Serra Ascendant would still be swinging back for lethal. Oh, okay. GG. Gain 21. Attack for 6, gain 6 more. Okay, that's a tireless tracker. Oh my gosh, this game! Alright, I'm running out Giver of Runes here just on the off chance that they have an answer for Sarah Sendin. I can protect it. But Tireless Tracker is going to have to stay on defense, otherwise Giver of Runes will kill them. We beat Ponza with 1 land. Who's loving this deck? Because I'm loving this deck. We beat Ponza with 1 land. Alright. Match record reset. And we've already cashed out, so that should show the power of the deck. This is mildly slow, but this is still a fantastic hand. We're on the play. It's doing everything we want to do. Honestly, this is a great hand versus Tron. It's probably okay versus some of the more aggressive matchups, just because they're going to have to kill the Giver and then figure out how to get through the Thraben Inspector by the time that we Ranger and refill. I had to say aggressive matchups. This is actually looking a lot like Goblins from that start. I am going to leave my Giver of Runes on defense, just in case they have something hasty. Holding up Path is also completely acceptable here. If they try to kill my Giver, do I want to Path it so I can Ranger next turn if I top deck something terrible? Probably not. Alright, well, hard casting the Crater Maker. I'm doing that just for efficient mana, but it means that they can't sack it to kill my Giver, so I'm ahead. Winds of Abandon. Alright, well, I like everything I've seen so far. Then it's not always correct. Seeing this here makes me think that they could potentially have discard, but I'm going to crack my clue looking for a 1-drop since we have so many in the deck, and we whiffed. But that's fine. Okay, Aether Vial goes up to 2. That 1 point of damage probably didn't matter. Staying on defense versus haste like that probably mattered. Yeah, that was probably a mistake. Goblins have haste. That's just a fact of Magic. Well, opponent looks like they're flooding out about as hard as we are. Alright, Ranger Captain. So we have choices here. Leon an Arbiter? Nope, Munitions Expert. Can't do anything about that. So we have options. We can get Walking Ballista and start shooting down their creatures. We can get Martyr Ascendant package and just put out a 6/6 flying lifelinker they probably can't deal with. The Martyr would only gain 9 life at the moment, so that's probably not good enough. The Thraben Inspectors can try to draw us into more action given the number of lands that we have. Kami is actually an interesting out because that means in 2 turns we can buy it back every turn with a Sarah Ascendant, so they won't beat us with combat damage. Giver of Runes can protect our creatures. This is slightly awkward. So I'm feeling Kami in a nasty way just because they're going to try to win with combat damage, and fogging it every turn seems fantastic. And then probably just Walking Ballista, shoot down their creatures, try to keep stuff off their board. Oh, I didn't play a land. Did I? Oh, I did. I played a Plains. Opponent was on the play. Alright, opponent is flooded out hard. Okay, another Chief that reduces cost when they're flooded out. We might be taking this just solely off of how awkward their draw was. You gonna try to get in for 2? Didn't think so. That is a Thalia with first strike. I love this deck. Well, next turn I can Winds of Abandon. They probably actually got most of their basics out of their deck. So if I'm going to Thalia and Kami, I can Walking Ballista for 1. That's not very good. Alternatively, I can Field of Ruin, go get a Plains for a future Maria. Basic check them to figure out if we actually want to go with that plan. We don't. Play the Kami. Play Talia. And ship it back. Not going to attack in. We are a defensive deck. They're an aggressive deck. This is just a good matchup for us, so may as well have fun with it. That is Pashalisk Mons. All right. Well, Kami's going to show some value here. You have to pay 4 to sacrifice to get Goblins. Yeah, that can start going downhill quick, but we have the Winds of Abandon. Opponent's kind of signaling that they run on Earth in their deck. Well, they can't really tap out to kill anything else. I'm just going to take the 2. And I'm feeling a little more inclined to Walking Ballista for 3 and just kill the Pashalisk. Alternatively, I just Winds of Abandon, swing in for 4. Yeah, I mean, I get to keep Walking Ballista around, and I'm not afraid of anything else on the table. That was a mistake. Actually, no, it wasn't. I was going to say I should let them untap first, but if they untap, they can just activate it. The reasoning behind that, though, was they could have done that line. I saw them being able to kill the Walking Ballista or the Kami. I actually figured they'd go for the Kami, but apparently it wasn't important enough. That's another Giver of Runes. Alright, well, our Ranger's a little bit better than their Ringleader, which they aren't even drawing. Let's go ahead and grab the Thraben Inspectors. They're just free blockers. They'll also cycle through our deck. We're pretty close to turning on a Maria if we ever draw it. And opponent's not going to hit us, so the more white cards we get, the bigger Martyr we get. Faster we turn on Sarah Ascended, just fly over their defenses. Alright, create 2 Goblins, sack it. Target player loses a life, you gain a life. Currently 5 damage, but we're pretty healthy. Ranger Captain, what does that change? Probably not enough. I actually should have Winds of Abandon there. Would have gotten rid of their board, but I guess they don't have any top decks. So I can actually just cast on that. Is that good enough? If they top deck another Mons, no, I want to hang on to that for now. Let's go ahead and Ranger Captain. It is going to replace itself with another white card. And that white card's going to be, sure, Martyr of Sands. Do I want to sack the clue or run out Giver? They don't have any way to kill Giver at the moment, so I want to try to protect my creatures. I also need to activate this Field of Ruin targeting the Ghost Quarter in case I top deck a Maria or Misfell Plains. Misfell Plains can retuck the Walking Ballista and just get me really far ahead. That is another Giver of Runes. Alright, well I think it's become time to overload, clear opponent's board, and basically just win. They have one card in hand, but odds are that we're just going to be attacking for lethal at this point, so... Yep, sack your board. Let's just yield to this guy. Oh, he sacked itself. Alright, I guess he doesn't care about the War Chiefs, and he might have something big mana-y coming? That seems like a unique play. So I'm going to leave back one Thraben Inspector and the Giver of Runes. I can still sack the Kami. Alright, just trying to prevent damage. Well, opponent honestly didn't have much going on there. I'm not sure if they can top deck. I guess they can get a Ringleader and kind of just combo off, or Matron into Matron into Matron. And actually get a couple of Goblins, then go get a Palace Commons, and... yeah, none of it seems great. And look at that. Oh, I love you, Squawks. You're such an underrated card. Just a casual gain 12 life. Double your life total. Again, going to leave back a single Thraben Inspector. And I actually think the Kami, I don't want to trade the Kami off. I can't imagine they do anything I care about at this point, so that's probably just one missed damage, but it's not like it's an important amount of damage. You need to keep one Squawks in hand in case they clear your board so you can tutor up the next one. But, I mean, we're solidly in the win here. Like, opponent probably should have scooped by now. We do have a bunch of little dorks. I guess if they have an Anger, they could get out of it. But playing Anger in your Goblin deck doesn't seem very good. Hey, look at that! You found a Ringleader. They got a Mog War Marshal, a Pile Driver, and that was it. Yep, basically all of those are on defense. Alright, well we haven't been able to cast this yet, so I'm going to set my upkeep stop. You have to have that on MTGO, but I can pay 6 and buy back one of these creatures a turn. So let's just go for it. So I'm hitting for 5 if I give one of the 3/3s into Pro. Goblin Ring Eater can eat one of these. Yeah, this is fine. Whatever, we're slow rolling. We're so far ahead. You get Pro Red. Goblin Pile Driver could get pretty big if they hit like the perfect cards. All right, so now we get a proclamation. So we get a forecast bringing back the Martyr of Sands. And now we get to gain a casual 12 or 15 every turn. If opponent's going to let us play with them at this point, we may as well. Now we get to put out our 6/6 flying lifelinker, and there's not much coming back from this opponent. I mean, I guess I applaud you for trying, but there's not much coming back from this. Found another ringleader. Trash Master. Ooh la la. Okay, well, sure. Let's give you pro red. Actually, that's a mistake. Ranger Captain is better on the field. Ranger Avios is better in hand, but Ranger Captain's better on the field. All right, well, opponent wanted to ride until the very end. Path to Exile comes in. Wrath of God comes in. Cleansing Nova comes in. Elspeth probably comes in. They have the ability to grind. They're probably not going to get big enough for the destroy. That's not worth it. Uriok Champion's definitely coming in. That means that Banishing Light and Oblivion Ring probably aren't good enough. Opponent was telegraphing that they have Unearth in their deck, but an Exile clause isn't very good, and most goblins are ETB effects. Thalia is a very profitable blocker. Winds of Abandon can take care of a giant board state. It's weird, but with this setup, I keep wanting to trim the squawks. Like, these cards are just such high value. Dryad Militant can get trimmed for sure. Ranger Captain is going to be the Mirror Breaker. Ranger Captain can probably take a trim just because it only gets a single card. Kami of False Hope also seems fantastic. Like, the entire time, opponent was on defense, but we also had like multiple layers of protection thanks to the Kami and all the different Thraben Inspectors blocking. And I played that very passively, but we were ahead the entire time. We were netting like 2 to 3 cards when opponent was just top decking. They top deck pretty well, but they were just top decking. Last cut, probably a proclamation. They're going to try to pressure our life total pretty quickly, which means Saracen's not going to go online. I could actually see casting this just to buy back Martyr. Maybe just a Ranger. Get significantly worse with all the board clears. Yeah, I don't think I want anything else. So we can run it like that. We are currently up a game versus Gobos. Gobbles, gobbles, gobbles. Okay, so opponent was even telegraphing that from the start. 21 lands. Why must you hate me? This is slightly awkward. We have 2 Amerias. Well, we have to ship one thing back, so 1 Ameria is going back. The more I've been playing this, I don't think that 21 lands is enough for a single Ameria. The number of hands we've opened with no lands has been pretty brutal. So if I run out the Saracendent and I top deck a Martyr, I'm gaining 3 life, which means I'm playing the Thraben Inspector. 1/2 is also really relevant versus the double strike guy that puts a Goblin into play. I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but it's so bad. Do I want a Walking Ballista for 1? Actually, I'm going to have to run this out because the Uriok Champion is just going to be an infinite blocker. I did learn my lesson last game. Don't attack with the Thraben Inspector. They're probably going to drop a War Chief and then send in something with haste. Or they have an awkward multi-vial hand again. Is Ranger Captain worth grabbing anything here? Ranger Captain could get a Martyr. Martyr would gain me 6 life. Nope, just tap land in the champ. Opponent shouldn't have any way to interact with this, so it's just going to permanently be defending and protecting my life total as well as gaining me life. I like those cards. They do things. Next turn, Walking Ballista for 2 would dead a bolt, but also keep anything like the Palace Mons off the table or the Black Siege Gang. Look at that. Playing cards, gaining us life. Sarah Senate, you're going to be live pretty soon here. There's a ringleader. Revealing 4 Gobos. That was a good ringleader. That was a really good ringleader. Warren Instigator was the card I was talking about. You can't get in through a Thraben Inspector. That's a Crater Maker. So can't target the champion. They're tapped out, so they can't target the Thraben Inspector. That means Walking Ballista probably has to come down to kill something. Okay, so they've identified I'm going to double block something. Ranger Captain, go get Martyr, is still only gaining 3 life, although Ranger Captain entering and Martyr entering is 2 more, so that'd put me at 25. Sarah Senate's still not online. Walking Ballista will gain me a life and shoot down the Instigator. Mog War Marshal's going to gain me a ton of life. Ooh, they have a Lord coming. So I'm going to run out Walking Ballista, getting ready to kill the Lord. If they have a bolt, that's bad, but if they have a bolt, I'll just target the War Chief. Or, oh, they can flash it in instant speed. Probably should have thought through that one a little bit harder. Does this give haste as well? It does. Alright, well, Warren Instigator is never getting in thanks to this Oriok champion, so some decisions were made well. Alright. I think this means that they have 2 lords? Oh no, they moved this up off of it. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Opponent, you do you. I'll do me. War Marshal on the cheap, gaining us life. And that's probably the Instigator. The big attack. So Ranger Captain for Kami probably would have been okay here. Block you there. Block you. I guess it really doesn't matter. We'll do over here. Declare blocks. Shoot down the Lord. They had a Trash Master? Well done, opponent. Alright, looking for a Wrath of God? That's not a Wrath of God. So, Ranger Captain, go get Kami. Kami can fog for a turn. We're still drawing live to Proclamation. Do I actually want to run out the Sarah Ascendant? Yeah, because if I top deck a Martyr, actually that won't gain me enough life. Either way, this is a life linking blocker. Actually, that would have been free damage if I was planning on sacking the Kami. They might not attack in. I mean, it's possible. They're probably going to have to hold some stuff back because the Ranger Captain's a 3-3. Yeah, that was a bad read. I should have read the Trash Master. When they activated the Vial, I knew what it was, but I didn't think that far ahead. Yeah, that ringleader hitting 4 Goblins definitely kept them in this. And another ringleader. Alright, I'm impressed. There's a munitions expert that's going to kill the commie. Sorry, the ranger captain. Interesting. I'm tapped out. So what does this mean? I sack away most of my board and that's going to give them an additional thing. So let's get rid of the actual token. Soak up 4 damage and lifelink 1. Draw towards a Wrath of God. This gives me an additional turn with the clue and the commie. Winds of Abandon is also fully acceptable. Yeah, that might have been too mild of an attack. I actually need to double check that. That ringleader got munitions expert. Oh, and another ringleader. So they do have another one in hand. I'm good at calling things. Okay, so I know for a fact 2 of their cards are ringleader and I think right now I'm just going to try to get my planes count up for this Ameria. If opponent has a bolt, do I actually just die here? Possibly. They'll bolt the commie, attack out for lethal, so I've got a Wrath now. This does get rid of my Uriok champion, but it's also a 6 for 2. They get put in the ringleader for free. Munitions expert will handle whatever I draw next. I'm still 3 planes away from Ameria. Yeah, this is slightly awkward. Opponents had some pretty good ringleader luck. They found another ringleader and a matron. All right, well, now I think we have to draw Cleansing Nova or Winds of Abandoned. Krinko. All right. They're going to do that at end step, so that gets around a board clear. That's a bad giver of runes. So this is going to be on chump block duty. Did I trim squawks? I did not. Yep, here's a Krinko. Krinko's going to make 3 goblins. Actually, probably more. Another ringleader. All right, so 2 munitions experts, a crater maker, and 3 unknowns. Making 5 goblins, 6 goblins, and attacking for lethal. All right, opponent got it. I will lean a little bit on them getting some pretty lucky ringleaders, but what can you do? Elspeth would have cleared a board there. I don't really think it's good enough. I did really like the Ranger. Ranger being able to grab us cards that matter seems pretty good. Maybe the Legendary Claws of Thalia, since the taxing is actually hurting us more than opponent, isn't worth it. So, Dryad Militant's also a decent blocker. I don't think I want dried Milton over anything though, and the text box isn't relevant. All right, let's play first. Going for the 4-1 with Martyr Proc against the Gobos. This is plenty of control but slow. This is a pretty nut draw. This is everything we care about. So let's keep that, ship back the Ghost Quarter. Start off with a Saracendant, and then we need to top deck a white source and hit for 1. So if opponent leads on Aether Vial again, I'll have a 6/6 flying lifelinker. That should make quick work of this game. We should still have 18 lands left in the deck, so I'm 18 of 53. That's unfortunate. Okay, so I'm going to run out Martyr here. I really don't think I'm going to try to gain 6 life, but it's efficient use of my mana. It'll also let me Kami and sack it next turn. We do have the Proclamation combo, though. White card? Look at that. We're so good at this game. So opponent shouldn't have Munitions Expert up. They have no mana. Make that a 6/6. Put out a blocker for the Goblin Instigator. Hit for 6. And hope it's good enough. If they kill the Giver, I can Kami and then actually hardcast the Proclamation, get back 3 relevant creatures. Kind of an awkward hand, but it paid off. It's turn 3 Saracendant. Opponent's going to have something really good to kill the Saracen. It's probably going to be a Munitions Expert with a full board. Or figure out a way to hit me for 6. That one actually might be easier. I think opponent's looking for an out. Typically, you don't stall this long on a fetch land, especially in a mostly monocolored deck, unless you're looking for something very specific. Could potentially see a concession here, or it could be one of my famous, I have to draw like 3 things in a row. Just trying to piece together what to do. Because they're going to have to put a Goblin out and Munitions Expert, or Giver of Runes is just going to protect Saracendant. Gaining 6 life against the aggro deck's kind of backbreaking. Figuring out how to do 6 isn't nearly as bad. They could Mog War Marshal. That'd get them 3 goblins. Put out the black guy that lets you drain anytime a goblin dies. That'd sack 4 creatures, which means you just need 2 Mog War Marshals over 2 turns, although I'll gain 6 life again before then. So that's not very likely. They're going to have 3 mana this turn, which means they could Haste Lord as well as a Goblin Instigator and a Munitions Expert. That would allow them to put 2 goblins into play. That would be a Siege Gang Commander and the Black Siege Gang Commander. That would actually do it. We haven't seen a Siege Gang Commander yet, and we played a couple of long games. Maybe Kami was a better play here. I don't know. I really didn't tank on that nearly as long as opponent's giving me time for at the moment, though. There are a couple of things that might keep them in it, but none of them permanently deal with the Saracen, especially if I can make it a 6/6 again by proccing in the Martyr. At this point, I'm thinking opponent had to have stepped away. I've thought through most of their lines, and they're still tanking. Overall, though, been very happy with the deck. The new White Ranger seems okay, although going and getting a single card doesn't seem nearly as impactful as grabbing like two Thraben Inspectors and tending to draw two more cards, or getting both pieces of the combo, the Saracen and the Martyr Sands at the same time. Being able to get two 1 CMC things that are synergistic in this deck is actually super important. The one less mana and the incidental hate is relevant, but we haven't gotten a Mary online once. I think Modern may have sped up a little bit too much for that since Modern Horizons came out and Phoenix became a thing. Giver of Runes has actually performed really well. Being a 1-2 is insanely relevant, but it's also been answered almost every time it's hit the field, except for versus this opponent in Game 1, and we couldn't really attack in without exposing ourselves. Opponent has disconnected. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do the wrap up because I did mention at the start of the video, but it looks like we got a couple of new viewers. This is the deck that I personally recommend as like the budget entry deck. This is the full blown version. If we do the breakdown, it's basically the new Ranger Captain that's expensive, the Thalias that are expensive, and then the couple of pieces that you actually do need. Horizon Canopy drives up the price a lot. You don't need it. I have it in here for Crucible of Worlds so I can cycle it and draw an additional card every turn if I'm playing a grindy matchup. But this deck is fantastic. It's fairly budget. Path to Exile, Thalia, and Rip all transition pretty well. There's different variants of this deck, and I'm playing the creature heavy one. There are several different finishers that you can get between any of the explosive white planeswalkers, Sun Titan. This deck works on a budget, and because of the reprints, the shell is fantastic. I really like Saracen. I really like Martyr Sands. The two of them take those fast wins that you need to be in Modern, but also give you the ability to grind it out and stay in the longer games. The things that this deck has troubles with are Dig in the Ice, clearly. That's our only loss tonight. And Planeswalkers, if we would have played against blue-white, we don't really do enough damage to keep the Planeswalkers in check, so I probably did need a number of Pithy Needles on the side. But coming back, when we are looking at the Sarah Ascendant... Oh, opponent just dropped. Great. Well, when we are looking at Martyr of Sands, you have to reveal white cards, which makes things like Relic and Grafdigger's Cage really bad and Rip really good, is because you're missing out on that 3 life. Especially in that last game, you saw how like I had to top deck one more white card, and Walking Ballista was a little awkward the turn that we had it. Walking Ballista is a great tutor target. It's the only colorless card I actually tried to make room for because of the value of tutoring up a Walking Ballista. This deck just does so much that's great, and again, like cards like this, they're not in my version of the deck at the given moment because I wanted to try the new Modern Horizons cards, but they're all pretty budget. I think Sun Titan's $2. I think Gideon Jura might be like $3, and Ally of Zendikar has fluctuated a lot. I think it ended up somewhere around 4, but it's just really powerful cards that all do what you want to be doing in this strategy, which is grind, attrition, bring stuff back, or force your opponent into an action they don't want to. And I think that we showed that off pretty well. Like, check that out. We went 4-1 with this jank. Okay, it's not jank. I love this deck. Let's go ahead and open these up just because we did do pretty well with it. I'm a fan of opening all of these. So 65 play points is pretty good. Primeval Titan is actually one of the few cards I haven't tried to buy yet. Other than that, nothing great. This might have some value just because it's an E-tron. And Archdruids and Elves, but I've already got 4. Did pretty well, though. I'm always happy to answer questions on this. Going to be uploading it to YouTube later. I will help you construct your deck, figure out what the budget considerations are. The core of the deck, though, is essentially just Path to Exile, Martyr of Sands, and Sarah Ascendant. If you buy those pieces, you have a functional, strong deck that can compete, and the rest of the deck can be built. I think my paper Martyr deck is less than $60, but it has an Expedition Crucible of Worlds in it, so... I mean, you have to take your battles. But yeah, that's the deck. Everybody, I am thirteene. I do a lot of jank videos and fringe decks. If you have a deck you'd like me to look at, feel free to send it to decks@squirreldealer.com. All the videos go up to YouTube. Feel free to search for Squirrel Dealer. Hopefully we'll have a hard link soon. We're about to pass 100 subscribers. If you like what me, Brad Wan, and Gburn are doing, they're all hosted on the Squirrel Dealer staff account. You can just hit that up, see who's doing it. Schedule's over on the left. Feel free to tweet us. We're not overly active on it, but if you want to hit me directly, I'll always answer questions on Reddit. Just hit me up at thirteene. And thanks for sticking around. Again, I love this deck. I will help anybody build it that needs to build it. Tell me what you've got. Tell me what you're thinking. We'll get through it. And thanks again for watching, and everybody have a good night.